Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Mission Dharma. So we'll just let folks continue to join and get settled in. Good evening, everyone. Oops. Whoops. Welcome to Mission Dharma. Hold on. Sorry that. Hello and welcome, Lisa. It's our first time. Any other first timers? I'm just curious. Oh, we have a few. Well, welcome, welcome. Clearly, I'm not Howard Cohn. Um, so, um, so my name is Mary Davis, and I have been in the Mission Dharma Sangha for well over a decade now, and I'm also the president of the board. And I have my own Sangha in Richmond called Insight Richmond, and occasionally I have the privilege of sitting in for Howie when he goes out of town. Yeah, in fact, let's just do something rather than have folks shout out where they're from. If you wouldn't mind just typing in the chat where you're from as we sort of give a little more, give another minute for folks to join. San Francisco, Berkeley, San Francisco. Excellent. Regina, our friends from Regina. More SF. Oh, someone from Richmond. I don't know if that's Richmond, California or Richmond elsewhere. I'm in Richmond myself, so. Terrific. So we have folks from Seattle, Colorado. That has been the sort of the wonderful thing that sort of arose from the pandemic and going on Zoom. There are things that we may have lost, but there are folks that we have gained who are able to be here, who were not able to be here before, either distance, ability, all that other good stuff. So, Christopher's in Richmond. Okay, wonderful. Okay. And all right, great. We have our Canadian friends. We have folks from all across the country. So, what we're going to talk about today, I'm going to talk about attention as a form of love, or actually attention as a pathway to love. And so that's what I'll be doing a little talking about today. But what I'd like to do, how I sometimes like to start my sanghas, for folks who are not on camera, if you wouldn't mind going on camera just for a few minutes, because I always like before we sit to sort of be able to get this sense of that we are here as a sangha. You know, you are here with others, that old sense of alone together, right? And so just sort of gaze into the little Zoom rooms and just recognize the other lovely human beings who are here with you today. We all have this hunch that this whole meditating thing might be helpful. Coming together in a group to practice and listen to the Dharma. Charlie's giving us a peace sign. Oops. The balloons. So anyway, and we have a kitty saying hello. All furry friends are welcome, as well as human friends too. I don't discriminate. Okay, so thank you for doing that. So just giving you just this open curiosity, you know, who's here with us today. Okay, so If you haven't had a good stretch recently, sometimes we just move from one task to the other. Forget that there's a body attached to this face that's watching this computer. Also, I want to thank Howie Gilman, who is our mission Dharma here today, for co-piloting. Thank you, Howie. All right, so letting the body start to settle, finding a posture for your body that works for the body as it is in this moment, not how we wish the body were or how it was earlier today or 20 years ago. Finding a posture that works for our body as it is now. So if you need a little bit more ease and comfort, give yourself that. If you need a little bit more alertness and uprightness, just to encourage this sense of landing. For most of our days, if we're not physically running around, we're mentally running around, dashing from one place to another or one thought to another. What a gift it is to be able just to sit down and settle, letting all the dust and debris of the day away. Letting the body be heavy in the chair or the couch, the cushion, wherever you're sitting. Body doesn't have to have any unnecessary tension or racing. Trusting that we'll be held by the furniture, by the earth. Letting go of the past, it's gone. Go of trying to control the future. It's all a figment of our imagination at this point. Of the emails and the texts, and the news. Let go of our roles. We need to achieve. We can let go of our identity. Just settle here and now in this body. Bringing this kind curiosity as to what's happening here in this body. What do you sense? Cold, warm. You could be restless. There could be a lot of energy in the body, or maybe it's feeling a bit sleepy or tired. There's places that are painful. Meet those with a sense of tenderness and compassion, demanding they change. Seeing if there's any places where we're holding on to tension. We all have our go-to places, but often around the face and the jaw. Go ahead and let that face rest because we don't need to look pleasant while we're meditating. There's no need to smile or be pleasing to others. Just let that face rest. Shoulders drop. Heart center, letting it be open and receptive. Notice the gentle movements of the body as we breathe. Expansion with the inhale, relaxation with the exhale. Settle and start to still. Simply ride these gentle waves of breath. Floating on a gentle ocean or a lake. Carry you. Your mind is feeling a bit quieter, settled, maybe there's a little concentration. Feel free to sort of expand the lens of your awareness to include the sensations, sounds, thoughts, emotions, and kind curiosity, friending each moment as it arises, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. Judging it without holding on to it or pushing it away. Counter things that are difficult sensations, difficult thoughts, emotions, and we meet those with a sense of compassion. Our awareness with this love, and loving awareness to each moment. whether we like what is happening, or not like what we're happening, somewhere in between. As long as we're holding it in loving awareness, it's fine. Everything can be held in this field of loving awareness. Started to transition from your practice period. Please do so now. Ah, so lovely practicing with you tonight. And so, what we're going to do first is we're going to have announcements, take a wee bit of a break, just 5 minutes for a bio, Donna drink break, and then we will resume. So, I'm going to turn it over to Howie G for our announcements.
Okay, I hope everyone can hear me. Um, First, I have two announcements, but first I just want to thank Mary for uh, for being there, taking the seat, being in charge, and helping us along. So thanks always. It's for anybody who ever considered leading this sangha. It's formidable and it's wonderful. So thank you. Um, I'm going to do something that I haven't done before. I'm going to share the screen just for a minute while I'm talking because you've seen enough of me already. But I realize that some people are going to be seeing this on YouTube. So maybe because they can't pop into the chat, they can read what I have put up here. I don't know if anyone can see it, but it's ways to give dana. And for those who don't know or want to hear again, dana is the Pali word for generosity, and it is basically a basic pillar of of the Dharma of what we do. It certainly is for the in theory, and it also is in practice for our sangha because the contributions that we make uh, really keep this thing going. And it's been going for 35 or so years, and it's venerable and we want to continue it. So if you can't see on the screen, these are different ways to contribute. There actually is a suggested amount of 10 to $25. I know when we go to places in person and and it's done by donation, there's usually a little box or a little something. Well, here we do it online, so it may be less obvious, but equally important. So please do give if you possibly can. And that's the first announcement. Second announcement's a little more exciting. It's about the fact that Howie's going to be leading a all-day in-person Sangha retreat in San Francisco on Saturday, the 24th. That's a week from this coming Sunday. And I have been to a couple of the half-day live in person, I mean, and they're wonderful. And doing it at Fort Mason is just wonderful. But the opportunity to do a full day with Howie in a site like that is just, it's rare and wonderful. So I recommend it. You may have seen about it in the email that you got. And also, if you click on chat, I've put in the chat a way to register for it. So 9:30 to 4 on the 24th, Saturday of February in Fort Mason. So I hope as many of you can get to San Francisco and can come. So I think that's it. And back to you, Mary.
Thank you, Howie. Very much appreciated. All right, folks, let's just take a quick 5 minutes. Let's come back at 7:55, and then I'll share some thoughts about attention and love. So thanks, everyone. Okay. Whoops. Whoops. Howie, would you be so kind as to mute folks who need muting?
Sure.
Thank you, my dear. All right. So, welcome back, and thank you for your patience with a little break there. I know I needed it. Perhaps you did too. So, anyway, I want to share some thoughts tonight about tension as a form of love. And it was funny, I was talking to my Insight Richmond Sangha last week, and I said I was working on a talk about love. And a couple of them just rolled their eyes at me. And it's like, oh God, I can't even escape the whole Valentine's nonsense when I'm here. And I just had to laugh because I think it's particularly telling because we tend to associate so often in our culture the word love with romance, right? And with Valentine's Day tomorrow, of course, all the media and all the messages are about this romantic love. And plus also when we think about a love story or a movie, about love or a song, a love song, they're all pointing to this romantic love. Yet we know that love is so much more deeper and expansive and spacious than just necessarily this romantic ideal that we may hold. And so when I was thinking about this, and this is not out of the suttas, this is not scientific, this is just my own sort of thoughts about love and different definitions of love or ways to think about it. One is, of course, the romance, right? The love that we feel for a partner. And then there's sentimental or platonic. So that may be the love that we feel for a pet or a friend, a, a colleague, a benefactor, right? Just this other sort of platonic sort of love. And then, of course, familial, the love that you may have for your family. And of course, and that could just, because some people just love family just because they're family and they don't even have that much familiarity with them. So it's like, oh, yes, I love them because they're family. And then there's desirous love, which often overlaps with romantic love. But it could be something just as benign as like, I love mangoes, something that we feel passionate about. I love redwood trees. We also use that word love around that. Or it could be a sort of fixated, obsessive type of love, right? Or it could just be lust masquerading as love. So those were just some thoughts when I was thinking about the word love, the way that we, other definitions of it besides sort of the classic romantic love. But of course, in the Dharma, in Buddhism, when we talk about love, we usually talk about it as metta or loving kindness, right? Or more broadly, we may talk about the Brahma Viharas, right? Which includes metta or loving kindness, but it also includes compassion, karuna, sympathetic joy. I'm happy, you're happy, right? That joy that we feel when somebody is having something good happen to them. And also that caring quality of equanimity. And so these Brahma Viharas are called the divine abodes, right? These are the nature of the awakened heart, right? So in other words, once we start to wake up to our true nature, we notice that it's just permeated with love. And so when we talk about metta in particular, loving kindness, a lot of teachers will use different words just because love and its variations can feel so fraught, can feel so loaded. And so I've heard teachers talk about instead of loving kindness or love, they'll say unconditional friendliness. Or I like affection. That word always resonates for me. Beneficence, goodwill, or simply the wish for others to be happy. Right? We think about the metta phrases, may you be happy, may you be safe, may you be healthy, may you live with ease. Right? So how does this all relate to attention? So I have this quote from Tara Brach, and she says, attention is the most basic form of love. By paying attention, we let ourselves be touched by life, and our hearts naturally become more open and engaged. We care about this awakened heart because, like a flower in bloom, it is the full realization of our nature. Love is the full realization of our nature. Feeling loved and loving matters to us beyond all else. We feel the most who we are when we feel connected to each other and the world around us, when our hearts are open, generous, and filled with love. So I think we sometimes have this idea that we tend to pay attention to those that we love. That love somehow is this condition for this wholesome attention to arise, right? I pay attention to you because I love you or I care about you. Maybe if I don't know you or I don't like you, don't love you, maybe I don't need to pay so much attention. Or the attention that we pay is ego driven, right? What can you do for me? How does this apply to me? Are you better or worse than me, right? Or we're waiting until we can talk about ourselves. I'm sure we have all had the experience, I don't think I'm the only one, of being the one who has withheld our full attention or given maybe half attention. And certainly the intention was not, malevolent or intentional. It's just something else was more interesting. Particularly when we have, these devices in our hands, right? There's always, it's always pinging and asking for our attention. And sometimes we can just go, what's more interesting here, right? And then being on the other side of that, we've probably also been on the other side of that when someone is not paying us full attention, when they're distracted, and we know how hurtful that can feel. It's really easy to feel unloved when we're not getting the attention that we feel like we deserve. I mean, I don't know how many arguments I've had with my partner when he's just half talking to me, and you get the no, I'm listening. No, you're not. And it hurts. It's painful, right? Because we want to, this attention so that we can feel seen and heard and loved. But love is not a prerequisite for attention. Actually, it's the other way around. Love grows from attention, right? We love what we pay attention to. Because how did this love arise in the first place? Right? We noticed someone, or perhaps they were already in our orbit. They were in the family, coworkers, classmate, etc. But we paid attention. We got to know their quirks. We admired their good qualities and developed some patience with their not so good qualities. We're willing to drop the assumptions, and we got curious, and open to receive what we noticed without judging. That's why in the practice I was talking about this open curiosity, this kind curiosity, where it's like we're dropping all the assumptions, and it's like, oh, what is this? And just starting to pay attention. I work for do work part-time for an organization that used to be called Cloud Sangha, is now called Banyan. It was started by Jack Kornfield and Tara Brach. And it is a community where people come together, and they mostly around a lot of discussions. And so I host what are called mindful friends groups. And it's very interesting because, all of these people came together as complete strangers. Now, granted, what they had in common was the fact that they, want to meditate, and they're interested in mindfulness, are interested in exploring this in a group. But what happens after maybe just a session or two is like this affection grows, because there's this quality of attention that everyone has agreed to pay to one another. Just this, where people get an opportunity to speak and they are listened to and they are held, and people come out just feeling there's so much affection that gets generated from that, from just having our humanity reflected back to us when we're open and vulnerable and honest. And so, and then you hear it when they come back from the breakout rooms, because most of the sessions are about breakout rooms. There's so much, just appreciation and gratitude. And so this comes from this bringing this attention while people are able to sort of show us, who they are. And I have found through that experience and other experiences is that, oftentimes you'll meet somebody and you're kind of like, yeah, you are not my people, or just, I don't know, not my cup of tea, as they say. Maybe it's a cultural gap or an age gap, political gap, difference in personality, and it just feels like too wide of a gulf to even attempt to traverse into friendship. Yet once we pay attention and really pay attention and we listen and we watch with an open curiosity rather than judgment, we naturally start to see this affection start to rise, this friendliness, this openness. We're able to see that despite the differences in age or gender, nationality, race, ethnicity, social, economic background, that we all share this very human experience of trying to be happy and having to deal with the various forms of suffering. And so after a while, it's like they start to cease to be the other. That line between self and other starts to soften. It's not such a wall. And then somehow we're able to start seeing it as part of a we, rather than us versus them or me versus that person. So there's a fellow, John Tarrant, director of the Pacific Zen Institute. He wrote, "Attention is the most basic form of love. Through it, we bless and are blessed." And so when we're paying attention with this open-hearted quality, right, we can directly feel the benefit of it, right? We feel that warmth, we feel that connection. There's a sense of peace in it, right? These are the blessings of a loving heart, right? When we're not wrapped up in ego or judgment, what's there is warmth and peace. These are the blessings. And then, of course, the person that we're paying attention to also feels blessed in terms of being seen and heard, held and loved. So as I say, it's sort of a win-win, right? When we're paying attention, it benefits us because all the benefits of that and the person that we're paying attention to also feels seen. Because this sense of blessing and being blessed arises from that quality that gives rise to feelings of friendliness, affection, in other words, of metta, right? This sense of blessing is really just sort of metta, being how we feel metta, and it's what's called a wholesome or a skillful state of mind, one that leads to happiness, right? And so, and I'm sure that we're familiar with the other kind of the unwholesome or the unskillful type of attention. The attention that brings fixation and compulsion or judging and comparing, the attention that fuels hatred, right? And this is an unwholesome or unskillful attention, one that brings more suffering. And so it's important to start noticing how we're paying attention to things. Paying attention to paying attention, right? So if we stop and pay attention to the quality of mind when we're focusing negative attention on someone, including ourselves, I think we can pay a lot of unskillful attention to ourselves, that mind of judging and comparing, right? Um, so when we notice this, how we're paying attention, we start to see that we can see the difference and feel the differences between an unwholesome attention and a wholesome attention, right? This attention that brings this open-hearted curiosity versus the one that is ego-driven and is fear-based and looking for ways to avoid the current moment by becoming fixated on something else, right? Oftentimes, when we're paying attention to something or someone, we have some preconceived notion of how they are, and we're just looking for evidence to back up our case, right? We're not able to see the good or to see what we're not expecting. And so we can feel when we're like this, the mind feels really narrow and the body feels really tight. And so we can, we pay attention. It's like, oh, what's this all about? And then we realize that we're in this sort of fixated attention that's not skillful. And then what we also notice, or at least me, is that I find myself sometimes like, wow, I have spent some time with unskillful attention, just giving undue attention to things that are not helpful, that are not feeding my heart, but rather just feeding the ego. Because we do have this natural negativity bias, right? That's on guard for what or who is deemed safe, what may threaten our survival. And, there's also a bit of a, pleasant Vedana or a bit of a charge when, we're judging somebody or comparing ourselves and we're coming out on the winning end of that equation, right? There's this sense of inflation. And there's a little hit of like, yeah, the ego gets a little charge out of that. So, then the question is, how do we train on or encourage, giving more positive or wholesome attention to others and as well as to ourselves? Well, we do what we do here, right? We experience it first for ourselves in our meditation practice. Because in our sitting practice, we cultivate this ability to pay attention with a sense of open and kind curiosity. We're encouraged to let go of our judgments and be with things just as they are, whether we like them or don't like them or somewhere in between. We learn how to befriend our own experience, to stop resisting our lives. And we also start to see how much our self-judgments, how much suffering that's causing us. We recently did a month on self-compassion at Cloud Sangha, and it was just so interesting. People were just waking up to how hard they are on themselves. This message of self-compassion, like, oh, there's another way of being. I can actually be kind to myself rather than judging myself. So when we sit and we have our practice and we're noticing our moment-to-moment experience, we're able to see all of that. And we learn to meet our suffering with this tenderness and this compassion. And then we start to question, is like all the ways we've been hard on ourselves. Was this really necessary? All the ways we've been unkind. And that what rises instead is a love for ourselves that's not based on conditions anymore. It's not based on what we achieved or how we look or what we do. We start to be able to come into this space of metta for ourselves. That's this unconditional love. So those of you who sit with Howie on the regular, because just when I was, what really came up for me was the poem that Howie reads here sometimes called by Derek Walcott called Love After Love. And I really, see this as a fruit of our practice. So he writes, the time will come when, with elation, you will greet yourself arriving at your own door in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome and say, sit here, eat. You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself. To the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you have ignored, for another who knows you by heart. Take down the letters from the love letters from the bookshelf, the photographs, the desperate notes. Peel your own image from the mirror. Sit and feast on your life. We often forget, who we really are. We forget, that our true nature is love. So when we sit down to meditate, particularly, we learn what it's like to be human in all its joys and sorrows. We sit down and sometimes it's glorious. We have a wonderful, blissful sit, and sometimes not so much. Yeah, I can give you that after the sit, Melinda. So we learn to accept things as they are in this moment. We recognize, because that's all we have is just this moment, because it's going to change anyway. What's the point in trying to hold on? We start to learn to recognize when we get lost in the past or we're trying to control the future. We can feel the stress and the tension of the judging and comparing mind. We can learn to love ourselves, to accept ourselves. Right? We always talk about this sort of unconditional acceptance. Like, yeah, this is how it is right now. So there was this is a quote from Charlotte Jojo Beck. She's talking about practice and the benefits of that. And she says, practice is necessary for me too. Suppose I hope that my daughter will visit me at Christmas, and she calls to say she's not coming. Practice helps me to continue to love her rather than becoming upset that she's not doing what I want. With practice, I can love her more fully. Without practice, I would simply be a lonely and cantankerous old lady. In a sense, love is simply attention, awareness. When I maintain awareness, I can teach well, which is a form of love. I can place fewer expectations on others and serve them better. When I see my daughter again, I don't have to bring old resentments into that meeting. I'm able to see her with fresh eyes. So the priority is right here and now. In fact, there's only one priority, and that's attention to the present moment, whatever its content. So while we can experience the benefits of our practice directly, feel more peace, there's less self-judgment, we have more patience, more wisdom, compassion. Our practice also starts to show up in relationships to others, right? Even those we don't know yet. When we're paying attention, we start to extend the same understanding and kindness to others that we've cultivated towards ourselves. And then we're able to offer it to others. So our attention becomes infused with loving kindness and therefore becomes a blessing to this world. So my thoughts. Thank you for your kind attention. And if folks have comments or questions, I'm happy to use your little electronic hand, or on camera, you can just wave at me. I'll see you. Yes, Stephen, you're on mute.
Can you hear me
Yes,
now? Okay.
yes.
Thank you for a nice discourse. Very, very sweet. Um, I got hired at a job this last week, and then I got fired today, and,
Oh,
and so I feel hurt, and and I'm not sure. I mean, I feel hurt about it. Yeah. I mean, I feel like they didn't really give me a chance. They only gave me 2 hours to really get it together on the computer, and I'm really not that computer savvy to, to put in data entry. But the other part of the job, I know back and forward, and I just don't know where to go with it. I mean, I would like to talk to the assistant superintendent who made that decision, but I think that they just want somebody that's really quick with data entry, and I'm really good with the kids, but I don't think that was really recognized. And I just feel like it was not a really fair shot at it. I should have been shadowed and should have been given the time to get used to the job, which was being an LPAC examiner, a test examiner for kids. And I think I would have been really good at it, but I'm just not that good with a computer. But my background was I was in charge of those programs for decades, you know. But this was a different school district, and it kind of hurts. It's kind of like it's almost like you're getting thrown to the glue factory at a because you're getting older or something like that.
I mean, my advice is like we first need to hold ourselves with a lot of tenderness and self-compassion and just go, this hurts,
Hmm.
because it's like when we're acting out of our hurt rather than, it's like when we're able to hold ourselves with some compassion, it's like then we should have some access to our wisdom, to our discernment about what we can do next. Because I can't tell you what to do with the employer, unfortunately. But, it's sort of really just being kind to yourself because, these things hurt when we feel rejected and we get frustrated. And so, yeah, as Melinda says, ouch. Yeah. I mean, part of the whole self-compassion practice is just to feel that ouch and then offer ourselves what we feel like we need in that moment. Do we need to sort of to be, I mean, we can even hold ourselves. Our body doesn't, um, we can offer ourselves kind words. It all sounds silly, but it seems to work. And so I think you really have to sort of start there, being able to be able to hold the suffering in a way that is not lashing out at others for causing the suffering or lashing out at yourself. And it's this opening to the first noble truth. This is suffering. And so how can we meet that in a way that has some, kindness in it, that tenderness, that compassion, and then from there, then you might be able to access a little bit more wisdom to see what's called on next. So thank you, Stephen. I wish you a lot of luck with that. That's hard, and I hope you're seeing the comments. People are expressing
Yeah.
uh, a lot of kindness, and yeah, some of these things are out of our control. Yeah, and
Okay. Thank
that's
you
the
very much.
unfortunate part. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, Anne. Okay, thank you,
I just wanted
Anne.
to say to Stephen, I guess their loss, um, it's way more of a skill to be good with kids than it is to be good with computers. Um, but I also wanted to say that when you started talking about the topic being attention, during the sit, I was thinking all the people of all and during your discussion of all the people I've known in my entire life that I eventually became very close to and connected to, it always started with paying attention to them. And I never understood why I would pay attention. It just would happen. And I just it was an unwitting, unwilling, unplanned, unintentional attention to these other people. And I realize now that it was the connection asked for my attention. And I just wanted to say that that's kind of, I just realized that tonight. So thank you very much for that message to help me put two and two together. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. I think we go into, most situations. I certainly know I've been in work situations where I'm kind of looking around going, I don't know these people. I don't know if I want to know these people. And then, and then eventually it's like, oh, you start to pay attention, to listen, to watch. And then, eventually it's like things open up. We open up, they open up. So, yeah. Yeah. Anyone else? So let's just settle back for a moment. Just appreciating our efforts in being here this evening, appreciating our ability to practice together. Our wisdom and our love. All of the goodness that we have gathered here tonight, and we can spread it far and wide to those known and unknown, those near and far, those that are dear and those that are difficult, human and non-human. May all living beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all living beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. And may all living beings live in peace. So thank you all for your presence and for your attention. Do feel free to unmute and say farewell to each other.
Thank you, Mary. Bye.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night,
Thank
everybody.
Mary,
you.
bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mary.
you.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
And nice to meet the newbies.
Yes, and thank you for, yes.
Happy Valentine's Day, whether you like it or not.
Ah.
All right, friends.